friends, and welcome back to the Cloud Computing series. Today we are going to dive a little deeper into cloud computing models. We will visualize cloud computing models through two different lenses. First lens gives us deployment models, which defines how cloud computing infrastructure is deployed in three different ways: public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. Second lens gives us service models. It defines the different flavors in which the cloud services are provided to us, namely infrastructure as a service called IaaS, platform as a service called PaaS, and software as a service called SaaS or SaaS. As we explore these models, we will also map the real-life examples out there to each of these models, and that will complete our understanding of this topic. So, stick around. In the previous video, we covered the basics of cloud computing and the benefits of moving from on-premises setup to the cloud one. If you didn't get a chance to see that video, here is the link and I'll post the same in the description of this video. Now, let's quickly move on to our today's topic, which is cloud computing models. There are two types of cloud computing models. Number one, deployment models. Number two, service models. You can think of these two ways of categorizing these models as if you are looking at cloud computing through two different lenses. Let's discuss these one by one. First off, we have deployment models. There are three different models in which cloud infrastructure is deployed. Number one, public cloud. A public cloud is the cloud which is shared by everyone out there using that cloud. An example would be AWS cloud. It is shared by everyone out there and it is not dedicated to just one person or one company. This gives cloud provider economies of scale, which in turn reduces the cost. But here is a catch. Although cloud providers are generally secure and follow all the compliance guidelines, yet there is still a little security risk since the cloud is shared by other tenants. Companies that have sensitive data, for example, financial information or medical reports, tend to hesitate to move their data in the public cloud. This leads us to our second deployment model, which is private cloud. In this model, cloud infrastructure is accessible to only one company. An example would be HPE or VMware. No one from outside the cloud can access the data inside the cloud. However, the disadvantage here is that there is a huge cost increase in terms of money and management as compared to public cloud. Companies with sensitive data tend to find a sweet spot, and that leads us to our third deployment model called hybrid cloud. In this model, the sensitive data is placed inside the private cloud, making it secure, while on the other end, the not so sensitive data is placed in the public cloud, making it cost efficient. Therefore, this model gives best of both worlds. Let's move on to the second category of cloud computing models, that is service model. But before touching that, if you recall that in the previous video we talked about on-premises setup. In that setup, we have to manage everything. This includes physical data centers, networking, storage, server, virtualization, operating system, middleware, runtime, data, and applications. As we move towards the cloud service provider manages some of these things depending on the model of the service being provided. The service models fall into three categories. Number one, infrastructure as a service called IaaS. In this model, the cloud service provider manages networking, server, storage, virtualization, but on the other hand, we have to manage operating system, middleware, runtime, data, and applications. These services are mostly used by IT admins. An example of such service would be Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud called EC2. The second type of service model is platform as a service called PaaS. In this model, the cloud service provider manages everything it manages in IaaS, but it additionally manages operating system, middleware, and runtime. The consumer only has to take care of data and applications. These services are mostly used by software developers. An example of such service would be AWS Elastic Beanstalk. The third service model is software as a service called SaaS. This is the most famous service model of all since every one of us being an end user uses this service model daily. In this model, the cloud service provider manages everything including the application and its data. We as an end user just use these services online without worrying about anything. For example, Gmail as we discussed in the previous video. If you have followed me along in this series up to this point, feel confident that now you have a rough sketch of the cloud computing paradigm in your mind. We started from the basics of the cloud computing, did a comparison with on-premises setup, evaluated pros and cons of different deployment models, and then we discussed how different service models differ from each other. Moving forward, we will discuss different cloud providers that are out there, and then we will pick AWS as our primary example of cloud and discuss that in detail. That's it for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments after giving a cheeky thumbs up, and do subscribe for further updates. Bye bye.